On January 20th, 2025, President-elect Donald J. Trump says goodbye to the now former president, Joe Biden, as he subsequently walks towards the Marine One presidential helicopter. Hello, Mr. Bulldog. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, Jesus Christ, who are you?
Yeah, nothing. Just heard somebody mention a helicopter, and I came to tell you about it.
How do you know my name?
Anyways, presidential ceremonies are always beautiful to look at, especially when the helicopter's involved. No, get out of here, Bernie. It's not your time yet. Anyways, the first use of the presidential helicopter was in 1957, where Dwight Eisenhower traveled on a UH-13 Soyuz. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's called Sue, but since you guys bullied me so hard in the last two videos, I'm just going to simply show it in a different language. Because apparently 500 to 400 years God, like, how do you even call this Sue? You literally can't pronounce half of these anyway. But yeah, President Eisenhower wanted to go to his summer home, but it was not really practical to do so with the Air Force One, since his home had no runway and he was on a very short distance anyway, so he might as well use the helicopter. God, Taylor Swift should take a note. Like, what are you scared of? Become the Iranian president?
Oh, wait, sorry. Wrong character, Miss Piggy. Get out of here.
Which, for those who don't know, the Air Force One is basically the presidential airplane. The presidential helicopter is called the Marine One. The Marine One helicopters also have their own distinct color. They were also called Army One based on who you ask, but that is interchangeable depending on the history. Why, you might ask? Well, because the first helicopter and the pilots they were using were some of the best in the Marines. The Army also had the responsibility as well. Plus, they already used the best plane and the best pilot from the Air Force and called it, Air Force One, so they might as well do the same to the Marines and the Army anyway. If the Vice President is not in the same helicopter as the President itself, it will be simply called the Marine Two. Anyways, back then the presidential assassinations using the short-range smuggled AIM-92 Stingers were not really a thing, so thankfully President Eisenhower survived the first flight on the Sue helicopter. And then Eisenhower thought,
man, this thing f***ing sucks. Do you have any better helicopters?
Yeah, of course, Mr. President. We have the H-34 with some of the best pilots in the country and possibly the entire world.
Yeah, sure. Let me have a look at it. Man, this thing f***ing sucks.
And that's where they realized they need a better helicopter. The first presidential helicopter, which was called the H-34 Seahorse, and yes, it is also in this video as well, didn't even have an air conditioner and didn't have the luxury shit that the usual presidential vehicles had. What U.S. soldiers are normally used to. By the way, the V designation of the name stands for VIP. That stands for VIP Helicopter-3A, for example. 4 years after selecting the Seahorse as the presidential helicopter, they really got tired of how terrible it actually looked and generally not being that luxurious for a president. So they replaced it with a VH-3A. I mean, they say it was a very good helicopter, but let's be honest, it was the 60s and the piston engines were getting outdated and the turbo shafts were coming up. Also, I'm gonna be real with you. Which one would you choose if you were the president of the United States? Would you rather choose this or this? Exactly. That's what I thought. Time after time, they got upgraded from the VH-3A to D and then the N. Don't ask why, I don't know either. Eventually, the VH-60N also entered the fleet of presidential helicopters, but we will talk about it a little bit later. However, a lot of things have changed after the 9/11. After the attacks, everyone had led to an agreement that the Marine One helicopter fleet needs significant upgrades towards its communications and the security systems. However, the helicopter was having some weight limitations and the airframe itself was too old, and they soon realized that they need some beefy upgrades. So as always, the Department of Defense started the VXX program. Two companies showed up. One was the Sikorsky S-92 and the other was the Augusta Westland AW-101. Both were selected, however, the replacement costs were estimated to be around 11.2 billion US dollars, which, if you do the math, each helicopter was going to cost more than the Air Force One. There was some political controversies here and there, so they restarted the entire program in 2010. And this time, the US Navy was in charge. This time, Sikorsky and Lockheed Martin would team up with a VH-92 helicopter development. Boeing was considering to give them the V-22 Osprey and the Chinook as the presidential helicopters. The new requirements for the program lowered the number of people that the helicopter had to carry, shortened its range, and simplified its communications. By the mid-2013s, Boeing, Bell, and Augusta Westland declined to take part in the project as Sikorsky was most likely going to win the contract. There is a lot of political show and hiccups in the background that led to these companies' decline entirely. It was estimated that over 1,900 extra requirements were added to the project after the contracts were signed. You know how politicians behave. They can't stand living like a normal human being while they have billions of dollars at their disposal. I'm not saying that corruption doesn't exist in the military, but I wonder why is that every time we see politicians get themselves into the development of something, stuff tends to get really expensive really fast. Eventually, Sikorsky won the competition, and you can see the son of a gun to this day. Boeing went out to do what Boeing does nowadays. Bell went out to develop more cool things, and Augusta Westland went back to Europe and started talking about how bad America is. All I have to say is that I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now, and it's such a fucking shit show that I'm currently having headaches and I want to punch Maniac in the face. Wait, where's Maniac? Hold on. Oh, I think Bella ate him alive. Hey, Bulldog, what happened to Maniac?
How do I know, you cum-guzzling spark bubble?
Oh, well, that's new. Jesus. As of now, the HMX-1 squadron, which is responsible for carrying out the president, have several rotary aircraft at its disposal. Some are out of service or not, but generally you can see them here and there. The first one is the VH-53E Super Stallion. I think this is quite self-explanatory. This is basically a heavily overpriced Super Stallion, which, let's be honest, who are we kidding? It's a Sea King, waiting to carry out any important old man, which, yes, also includes you, Bernie. Yay, my personal MI8. Wait, what the fuck? This thing has plenty of space at its disposal. Being a heavy lift helicopter, this thing does just enough to transport the president and his staff as well. Now, of course, we got the famous VH-60. If you're any close to a helicopter enthusiast, you can already tell that this is a Black Hawk. This one does not have a lot of space compared to the others and are slowly getting out of the picture.
Bob, I think the president is it.
What the hell are you doing? Ah, nothing, just practicing scenarios. Let me see outside.
What's up, baby girl? Do you want to see me do the helicopter?
No. God. Oh my god, that is a huge Black Hawk.
Here I come.
Wait, that is the wrong Black Hawk! It has all the basic stuff that your presidential helicopter has. For example, it has your normal IRCM, basic radar jammer and radar warning receivers, basic armor protections for the president's cabin, and around 60 countermeasures. Wait a second, is this my Warthon review? Up next is the VH-92 Patriot, the newest addition to the squadron. Don't let the weight classification fool you. This thing is a medium lift helicopter and is really luxurious from the inside. The Patriot helicopter is the most advanced presidential rotary aircraft we have seen so far. And no, not this fake video. This thing has so much protection when it comes to its defense system, it puts Black Hawk into shame. Imagine everything the Black Hawk had, but multiply it by 2. It has encrypted SANCOM capabilities, newest MAW, jammers, and anything you can possibly imagine. You name it. Oh, and I almost forgot. Most of these presidential helicopters are really silent from the inside, or at least as silent as a helicopter can get. And finally, you have the MV-22B Osprey.
Well, hang on a minute. The Osprey is a very dangerous aircraft and has a lot of casualties. How come they still allow the president to ride it, let alone go near it?
Well, oh, Jesus Christ, man. The thought is killing me. Sorry, my bad. Okay. Let me give you a little example, Mr. Bulldog. Let's say, for example, your friends jump off a cliff. Would you rather follow your friends, or would you rather be in the V-22 Osprey?
What kind of question is that?
Exactly. When given 2 choices and one of them is flying the Osprey, you always have to choose the other. Unless the outcome is going to be the same, which you might as well have some fun dying. Jokes aside, Osprey has been recently getting a lot of casualties and things are going a little bit crazy. So crazy, in fact, that apparently the Black Hawk version of it is also getting into service as well. Anyways, when it comes to presidential or royal helicopters, United States is not the only nation which have VIP rotorcraft. For example, Russia has the Mi-8 MTV-1 Flying Kremlin. See the joke I did there? This one explains itself quite well. It is literally the special version of the Mi-8 being pretty much the equivalent of the Super Stallion.
Bob, it didn't explain that. It was an Mi-8 that was Flying Kremlin. It wasn't Super Stallion. Shut up!
It was combat proven and now it serves its president as well. Just like the Marine one, this thing also has huge amount of protection. Legends say that under this helicopter there is a Strela missile defense system that makes the Ukrainians and War Thunder players angry every time the helicopter takes a Gaijin. Nerf that f***ing thing! Let's go slightly to the left side of Russia. Ukraine also has an Mi-8 presidential helicopter. However, ever since the entire shenanigans in the Eastern Europe is happening, it is currently not in use. I mean, call it a war, a special military operation, or a 3-year-old museum exhibition, I don't really blame them for not bringing these guys up. Anywho, let's have a look at some different countries that have different fleets of presidential helicopters, or royal ones depending on their political taste. Let's start from the country that I always nerd out all the time, Iran. Iran was always a nation that focused heavily on its air force, or at least before the 1979. Before the revolution, Shah of Iran was a nerd for aviation. He was an Air Force pilot himself, his son was an Air Force pilot himself at 16, God, I wanted to be an Air Force pilot. And he generally had a lot of appreciation for fighter aircraft and helicopters. He already received a lot of training for fixed-wing aircraft, but during the 1950s, he was trained to be a helicopter pilot because he had a broad interest in improving and modernizing Iran's military. It is really interesting to see this man just hop onto a helicopter like he's driving a motorcycle, which he did actually, and flying it like there is no problem. I mean, he did frequently fly helicopters in different places and inspecting different factories in different parts of the country, but at the end of the day, this did not last forever. Everybody, post-editing Bob Dickinson here. I sincerely apologize for this cut, but unfortunately, due to my safety, I have to remove this section from the video about Iran. However, I will TLDR the entire post. Shah of Iran did actually knew how to pilot helicopters, and the Iranian president in 2024 sadly lost his life due to a helicopter crash. You see, I said sadly. I'm not a danger. Thank you. There was a 5 long-minute session about the Iranian history and presidential helicopters, but unfortunately recently there's been a lot of arrests in the country, and yeah, I don't want to be one of them. Anywho, let's go to the next country. Great Britain uses the Royal Helicopter Fleet. Oh my god, I just realized that my computer was on and all the fan noise was into the microphone. Ah, god damn it. You know what? Fine, I'm not recording this again.
Uncle Bull? What the hell are you on about, son? Enhance noise cancelling.
The Great Britain uses the Royal Helicopter Fleet, which consists of an AW-101 and a Squirrel HT-1. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. They use these helicopters to transport King Charles III and Prime Minister Rashid al-Sunni and Hamza Yusuf. And since both are brown, there is a 2% chance that there would be a second bus. I'm not making that joke, Jesus Christ. Now, unlike the Marine one, these helicopters are not exclusively reserved for the government, and are sometimes used for the military operations as well. Let's go to the second and closest British ally in their brother country, France. France has the Eurocopter EC-225 Super Puma for the official travels of the president. This helicopter unit that I will definitely give a try for pronouncing it,
Escadron de Transport Interterminité de Calibration Sexté,
is responsible for presidential transport. These helicopters have radar jammers due to their highly advanced capabilities, and are usually escorted by fighter jets such as the
Rafale putain
and the Mirage 2000
Scheiße.
I don't know how they're escorted by fighter jets, as if that's even possible. The helicopter has to go onto some very dangerous and fast speeds to reach a very insufficient and slow pace of the fighter jets. It's the French. They'll figure it out somehow. Now let's have a look at the South Korea. South Korea not only has the S-92, but also in some cases I've seen a Black Hawk as well. The text written on the tail of the helicopter could mean possibly anything. It could mean the Republic of Korea, the Korean Air Force, subscribe to Bob Dickinson, or like the video, wink wink, or possibly North Korea's trash. Up next we have Germany with the hold on.
Bundeskanzler,
which is a Cougar AS-532 and an NH-90, which honestly feels extremely similar to the Puma helicopter anyways. These guys are also responsible for carrying out the average European forgettable politician number 261. Always remember this, once we go towards the European countries, they will have 3 types of helicopters that their presidents or prime ministers would usually pick up, with some minor exceptions here and there. You either pick up an AW-109 or 139 lookalike, a Super Puma, or something that looks like a Super Puma, or you're still using an Mi-8 helicopter. Anyways, the German Air Force's Special Air Mission Wing is mostly responsible for carrying out the Kanzler. Spain's helicopter is called the Ray 1, which is a Super Puma H-215. Told you. The Spaniards also have one of the oldest presidential helicopter fleets in Europe, dating back to the 1990s. Anyways, this entire section, which the majority actually rules, I can't mention its name, please don't fucking kill me, uses the UH-60 Yanshuf. Old school viewers of the channel actually know what this helicopter is. This is a heavily modified Black Hawk that is mostly used by the IDF. Now let's be honest, this is the Middle East, there's something happening every day, so yeah, I guess they don't really usually use helicopters, but if they do, they would most likely use the Yanshuf 2, which is the upgraded versions of it. Yeah, remember when I said minor exceptions in the European countries? Yeah, apparently Sweden is one of them, as they use a Black Hawk for their main transport. They don't have their dedicated presidential helicopters, so they might as well use the ones that are already available in the military. There were some talks about the Swedish government going and purchasing a dedicated VIP helicopter fleet, but that one did not go anywhere. Norway uses a much less lethal version of the Huey called the Bell 412 SP. I'm actually so glad they have some taste at the end of the day, because usually they use civilian helicopters for official travels. UAE also has some VIP helicopters such as the Sikorsky S-92 and the AW-189. Some people speculate that their helicopter is gold-plated from the inside, but I wouldn't be surprised that there is also a parrot there that would repeatedly say, "Salam alaikum." Philippines used to have a beautiful Bell 412, but while Googling, I also saw a special Black Hawk that painted in a very beautiful presidential paint scheme. Colombia does have a presidential Black Hawk helicopter, which, by the way, I'm going to go off a script here. I literally searched for these 3 terms, and this is the first thing that came up. Apparently, their presidential helicopter was held by gunfire near the Venezuelan border, and speaking of Venezuela, the president of Venezuela actually uses a Super Puma H215. However, due to the economic struggles and Venezuela's idea of good economy is for pussies, the helicopters are not really that well maintained. I think Thailand does have royal helicopters, but honestly, I'm sorry, Sora, my friend, but I'm too scared to even look at this manuscript of a text. I mean, honestly, looking at the picture, it's already the Sikorsky S-92 and what the hell's a Super Hawk? Indonesia does have a Super Puma as well, which is an AS-33. It's pretty much the same goddamn thing. South Africa also has their own presidential helicopter. This time, however, they're very creative and decided to make their own locally made Denel Oryx, which you guessed it, it's a King Puma! Argentina also has some presidential helicopters. They use Blackhawks and Sikorsky S-76s for their transports and travels. Mexico also has presidential helicopters, which is, you guessed it again, it's a Super Puma. Egypt, oh my god, Egypt, holy crap. You're one of the first to actually have a VH-3 Sea other than United States. God damn it. Japan does use the Eurocopter EC-225. Oh, for God's sakes, it's the same goddamn thing. However, when it comes to China, they use the knockoff version of the Les Français super frelons, or Z8, and they also use the insultingly similar knockoff version of the Black Hawk. Unique enough, I guess. Oh, also here, enjoy Xi Jinping's special ride on the Z-10ME helicopter. Alright, let's see what's on the list. India uses an Mi-8. That's quite interesting. Their next door's not-so-friendly neighbor also uses an Mi-8. That's interesting enough. Nice paint scheme. Australia uses a Black Hawk that is from the military. And of course, Turkey. Turkey is a very special case, as not only they use foreign vehicles, but also they develop their own helicopters as well. The S-92 is a very notable helicopter for the President Erdogan. However, there is another helicopter that is called the T-625 Güzel Çay Yavaş brother, which is a locally made helicopter planning to replace the S-92. If you live in a different country, say for example nowhere Stan, let me know what's your national, presidential, or prime minister's helicopter. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you actually enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you haven't, dislike it if you dislike it. This is me, Kamal Abdelaziz, and thank you for watching.